Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today our lecture is about IEE and EIA regulations. In the previous lecture we started discussion about the guidelines and regulations, and that was mainly focused about the documentation and its importance, how the document will be prepared and how it will be submitted. Today we will talk about the uh, regulations, how they are helpful, how they are developed, and what kind of significant factors have been included in this. Before going into the detail, I would like to talk about the difference between regulations and laws. So, and act. So initially we have Act 1997 Act. We have a section 12 which was related purely about IEE and EIA. So what is the need of these regulations now? Those acts are giving us a borderline and scope of that act. What is actually included in that act? So in order to properly describe that act and to authorize some authority and to assign some particular duties to the different departments, rules and regulations are required. In order to develop regulations, the agencies are actually responsible to develop and to make a document and to get it approved. And once it is approved, then it will be implemented thoroughly unless we again modify it. So basically, first of all, we have laws based on the scope provided in the Act, and then those laws are actually interpreted and further minutely described in regulations. We will discuss the regulations and then you can easily differentiate how this is different from the Act. In our Act and section number 12, as we talked in the previous lecture as well, we were more concerned about the scope, what we actually want to be done under this section. But now we are talking how to do it. So initially we talked about the scope. Now we will be talking about the procedure. So let's start. So these regulations may be called as Pakistan Environmental Protection uh, Agency Review of Initial Environmental Examination and Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations 2000. So these were developed in 2000 by the Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency. So Pak EPA prepared these rules and regulations and get them active and approved right from the day it was notified on the 13th of 2000. These are the definitions. Again, but these definitions are based on the Act. So if you go through these details, you will find that we are defining Act. And Act means Pakistan Environmental Protection Act 1997. So this is the number as we have mentioned it here in our Act when it was approved. So this is the Act number of 1997. So based on this Act, so what is the name of this Act? The name of this Act is Pakistan Environmental Protection Act 1997. And how we will be defining it? This Act is actually it means that only that Act which was approved under this heading, under this Act, this section. Then we have a Director General, and it means Director General of the agency. EIA means impact assessment, and it is are defined in the act. And I think these definitions are we have already gone through these details. And IEE schedule means a schedule to do these regulations. So now this schedule is different from the schedule as described in this act. So it will be this these regulations have its own schedule. So we will be following this schedule. Earlier we related every definition with the act as defined in the act, as defined in this act, as defined in this act. So, but this schedule is a schedule to these regulations. These schedules are quite a number ranging from 1 to 7, and these are describing different things on which we are implementing these regulations. For example, we are implementing these regulations on a variety of the project. All the varieties are scheduled. So, when we will be talking about those sectors, different sectors, we will consult these schedules. Now we will just have an example and we will go through it in our last part. Then we have section, and this section means a section. So when we talk about different sections of this act, then it means that these are the different components of the act. So we have about 33 sections in our act, but in this case we will be talking about the regulations. So these definitions are number two regulation. So number one regulation was its definition. So this is the third regulation. It is about project requiring an IEE. So a proponent of a project falling in the category specified in Schedule 1 shall file an IEE with the federal agency, and the provisions of Section 12 shall apply to such projects. For your remembrance and for you to recall our section number 12 of the Act. So this is section number 12 and this is related to the Act. So just to recall, you can have it here, IEE and EIA. So all these provisions which have been provided here, starting from this, coming all the way to this, we have 7 subsections in this, and all these subsections are actually going to be implemented. So Schedule 1 has a typical range of the project we will go through later. IEE is only required if our project, the project of the proponent, falls in this schedule. So move next. Projects requiring an EIA. In this case, we have a schedule number 2, and schedule number 2 is going to define which projects are requiring EIA. Now other projects requiring an IEE or EIA and have not been listed, those will be treated differently. So for example, and it will be based on the federal agency, that how they declare that project. So in addition to any category which is specified in Schedule 1 and 2, the proponent of any of the following projects shall file. So an EIA only if it is going to cause an adverse effect. And for projects not listed in Schedule 1 and 2, but in respect of which guidelines have been provided for their construction operation by the federal agency, then in that case An application for approval accompanied by an undertaking affidavit that the aforesaid guidelines shall be fully complied with is going to be submitted. So this is the procedure only for the projects which are not scheduled in Schedule 1 or 2. So subject to regulation number 3, the federal agency may direct the proponent of a project, whether or not listed in 1 or 2, to file an EIA for reasons to be recorded in such election. So now the regulation number 3 is the projects which are requiring IEE. So federal agency will direct the proponent of a typical project to submit or not to submit, or what kind of response is required, along with the reasons recorded in this regard. So no direction under sub-regulation 2 shall be issued without the recommendation in writing of the Environmental Assessment Advisory Committee constituted under Regulation 22. Now this Regulation 22, you should keep it in your mind. It is about the establishment of this committee. We will study it in our coming slides. So this committee will be issuing the recommendations. So they will recommend for anything to be followed in this regard. Then the provision of Section 12 shall apply to the project. So of course Section 12, everything falling in the limit in the scope of this section will be complied by the project. This is the basic requirement. So preparation of IEE and EIA. We have guidelines obtained from the federal agency. Those will be followed, and then prepared extent practicable in accordance therewith, and the proponent shall justify IEE. So IEE, the proponent is supposed to defend what he is explaining. He is also responsible for explaining the scope. So everything must fall within that scope of the project. So then there are some review of fees. So this is only possible if we are going uh, to revise this schedule. Schedule number 3 is actually containing the uh, mechanism of defining how much fees will be paid by the proponent. So we have a schedule 3 which is linked with the screening process. So based on this, we will be defining the fees, and it will be reviewed by the federal agency as well. The filing of IEE and EIA, and again there is a procedure. Need 10 hard copies and 2 electronic copies, and so and so. And then application will be accompanied, and copy of receipt of the fees will be accompanied. All these here. So in the schedule number 4, there is an application form. So there is a set pro forma for the application which is available in this schedule. So schedule 1 is for IEE list, schedule 2 is for EIA list, schedule 3 is for screening list for fees review, and then schedule 4 is for application pro forma. So please go through this link, and it is having very valuable information how to prepare EIAs and how to prepare IEEs, what are the rules and what are the regulations, what are the requirements. All these things are included in this uh, link. It will be very beneficial for you even when you will be studying your course EIA separately. Actually, now we are only talking about the rules and regulations and the act and its linkage with EIAs. But in your course EIA, you will be more specific to the procedures and the documentations and different kinds of effects, social, environmental. All these things will be studied by you in that course, and this link will cover that aspect as well. Continuing to this, our regulations. In regulation number 9, we have a preliminary scrutiny regulations. So how we will respond to a submitted submitted IEE. So within 10 days, the agency is supposed to do one of these three things. These three things are confirm that IEE and EIA, which is it means that it is 100% according to the requirements. Then the second case, it will be required the proponent to submit. Then thirdly, to return for the revision. Then furthermore, if it is not within the limit, submit additional informations can be obtained anytime by the agency. So public participation, as it is also a major section uh, and major subsection. So if you go to the section 12, and then you can see that there is a role of public participation. So if someone has submitted the clause regulations 9 was to be published, and in that case the authority, the agency is supposed to publicize, and then it is going to explain the type of project, exact location, name, address of the proponent, and the place at which EIA of the project has been conducted, and all these things will be provided in that advertisement. And then uh, some limitations. The agency is supposed to fix the date, time, and place for public hearing of any comments on the project, and then shall and this date shall not be before 30 days of the date of publication of the notice, and then shall ensure the circulation of EI to the concerned agencies. Then all the comments will be consolidated, tabulated, and considered before its decision on EIA, and then these guidelines indicate the basic techniques to measure, adopt, effective public consultation. So all these things must be included in the final decision of EIA, which must be depicted in this decision report here. So it's a kind of in the review, which will be basically having its time frame of about IEEs to be 45 days, EIA to be 90 days, of issue of confirmation of completeness under clause sub regulation of regulation 9. So if you go back to regulation number 9 and you check what was the first thing to do was the initial review, preliminary scrutiny, and these were the three things to be done. So if this is the regulation and this is the sub-regulation 1. So if it has been confirmed, then after this 45 days for IEE and 90 days for EIA will be required for the submission, and then the review consult the experts, and then an advisory committee can also be formulated under this section. So it's section 5 and subsection 6 of the Act, section 5 and subsection 6 of the Act. It gives the authority done. In this case, this is the advisory committee and its procedure for the establishment. Okay, Furthermore, the DG may, where he considers necessary, constitute a committee to inspect the site as well. The review of IEE and EIA by a federal agency shall be based on the qualitative and quantitative assessment of the document. And so all these things are mentioned here. Received and so public concern has also been incorporated. So this is the final decision, and for this the proponent has to form set out in Schedule 5 in the case of an IEE and in conditions for approval. So the condition is that the project shall be designed and constructed and mitigatory and other measures adopted strictly in accordance with IEE. So IEE, which has been approved by the agency, must be thoroughly accomplished during the designing, construction, and mitigation measures must be taken strictly, and there must be a monitoring process of all the factors which have been highlighted in this IEE. So, and EIA both. Where the federal agency accords its approval subject to certain conditions, before commencing construction, an undertaking must be submitted in Schedule 7 as in Schedule 7. So it is a kind of undertaking by the proponent which will be submitted before commencing operation of the project to obtain from the federal a written confirmation of compliance that the condition of the approval must also be obtained from the federal agency. So this commencement of the operation of the project. So now the project has been completed, and after that it is now going to start its work, its operation. And before that operation, the agency will provide a confirmation of compliance that all these things which are explained here has been taken care of and properly implemented as per this undertaking as described in Schedule 7. So first of all, the proponent will be uh, provided an a detailed explanation of the designs and construction and mitigations, and then these will be confirmed by the undertaking by the proponent that he will comply these things, and then before the commencement of the operation, the federal agency will provide a written compliance confirmation of the compliance that all the things have been according to the approved IEE. It is a condition of approval and confirmation of compliance. It is something about these procedures which is after the completion of the project. The request for obtaining a written confirmation has some particular regulations. So regulation number 13 and sub-regulation number 2. Sub-regulation number 2. So this is something which is going to be followed here. How we are going to get it? It needs a description of all these things, indicating the measures, procedures adopted, proposed, and management of the mitigation impacts over the life of the project, reporting and auditing. All these things are part of it. Must be complied, and where a request for confirmation is received from the proponent, may carry out such inspection of the site, plant or machinery, and to check its validity and its confirmation, and issue the written confirmation of the compliance within 15 days of the receipt of this request in the sub-regulation. May, while issuing the written confirmation compliance, impose such other conditions as the management plan and and the operation and maintenance and monitoring of the project as it is required to prevail these conditions which were previously uh, uh, confirmed by the IEE. So extension in the review period, there are some regulations about it as well, where the federal government in any particular case extends a period of 4 months for communication of its approval under subsection 5 of section 12. It shall, in consultation with the federal agency, indicate the various steps of the review process to be taken due to the extended period. So this point has already been explained previously in this section 12. So validity period of the approval, I think it's again, you can go through it. And then we have entry and inspection. For purpose of verification of any matter related to the review of the conditions during or after the commencement of construction or operation, duly authorized staff of the agency may enter and inspect the project site and building. So only the authorized staff can put out the verification process or review process at any stage, whether it is during the initial stage, execution stage, or it's during the operation. The proponent shall take steps to ensure full cooperation of the project staff at site to facilitate the inspection, shall provide such information as required by the federal agency for the purpose of inspection and pursuant. So it's again quite simple and explanatory. So monitoring. After issue of an approval, the proponent shall submit a report out to the federal agency after completion of the construction of the project. After issue of the confirmation of the compliance, the proponent shall submit an annual report summarizing operational performance of the project with reference to the conditions of the approval and maintenance and mitigation measures adopted for the project. So is it clear? I think it's again very simple. So once the project has been finished, it has been completed, the construction stage, at that time the proponent will be submitting a report. Issue of an approval, the proponent shall submit a report after the completion of the project. And again, second step, once the confirmation of the compliance has been issued, which is confirming that everything is according to IEE, then again an annual report is supposed to be submitted, which will be again confirming that there is no non-compliance from the proponent side or the from the constructed project during its operational phase. So cancellation of approval. So in this is the option provided to the agencies to control, to have a control if there is anything not complying the as per decided IEE or as per promised or as have been undertaken by the proponent. In case at any time on the basis of confirmation, the federal agency is of the opinion that the conditions have not been complied, information supplied by the proponent is incorrect, it shall issue notice to the proponent to show cause within 2 weeks of receipt uh, as to why the approval should not be cancelled. If no reply is received, and in that case the or the reply is unsatisfactory, then require the proponent to take such measures and to comply with such conditions within such period as it may specify, failing which the approval shall stand cancelled, and cancel the approval. On cancellation of the approval, the proponent shall cease construction or operation of the project. So this is something about the cancellation of registers of IEE and EIA project. This is to be conducted within the agency, and all this uh, record will be stored within the agency. We have already talked about it in this section and in this subsection. And we have a schedule number 8 for this kind of registering and data storage. So, fed environmentally sensitive areas may be uh, by notification in the official gazette designate an area to be an environmentally sensitive area. This is something about the federal agency. Notwithstanding anything contained in the regulation 3 and 4, the proponent of a project situated in this area shall be required to file an EIA within the federal agency. So if the project is to be started in this area, uh, the proponent is supposed to submit EIA or IEE with the federal agency. So, sorry, only EIA is supposed to be submitted if it is in this, uh, if the project is in this area, and the project nature is not included in any kind of schedule 1 or 2 or guidelines to assist proponents and other persons involved in the assessment process to plan and prepare projects located in the sensitive areas. So federal agency will keep on updating the guidelines to find the environmental assessment process in these sensitive areas. The guidelines have been issued under Sub-Regulation 3. The project shall be planned and prepared to the extent practicable in accordance therewith, and any departure therefrom justified in the EIA pertaining to the project. So this is the 12th number. 22 number is about the advisory committee. We talked about it in slides. So for the purpose of making uh, a consultation process, advice process, the Director General can constitute uh, this advisory committee, and this advisory committee headed by the Director EIA Federal Agency and one representative each of the provincial agencies and one representative each of the Federal Planning Commission and the Provincial Planning and Development Departments. 4 representatives, one each of industry, non-government organizations, NGOs, legal and other experts will be included in this committee, which will be advising the Director General and Federal Agency in different matters, particularly in making decision on the IEE and EIAs. So other approvals, issue of an approval under Section 12 with the Regulation 12 shall not absolve the proponent of the duty to obtain any other approval or consent that may be required under any law for the time being in force. So other requirements will be as obligatory as obtaining this EIA and IEE required uh, approvals. So these EIA and IEE does not validate other approvals and does not uh, negate the requirements of other approvals. So these are the schedule 1, and we have this is under the regulation number 3, list of projects requiring an IEE. Under this heading, it is A category: agriculture, livestock, fisheries, and poultry, stud and fish farm, and total cost of more than 10 million rupees. Projects involving repacking, formulation, or a warehouse of agricultural produce. So, if the project falling in this category, only IEE will be required. If the project nature is related to energy and it is having these specifications, in that case it will be requiring only IEE. Similarly, manufacturing and processing has these uh, limit and these projects. If the projects are related with these and having these specification and characteristics, in that case it will be only requiring IEEs. So all these you can go through these. For transport again, water management, water supply and treatment, waste disposal, and urban development and tourism and other projects. So all these categories have been scheduled as Schedule 1, which are requiring only item. But now this is the Schedule 2, in which we are listing the projects which are requiring EIA. So it is having this limit, so the capacity has increased, and definitely it will be having a more impact on the environment, and more detailed studies are required. So we are in this manufacturing process, we have mostly all the hazardous nature industries. So mining and mineral processes, again here we have the range of projects as well, and nature of projects as well. Transport, management, water supply and treatment. So now the capacity has increased, it will definitely have some negative impact on the environment. There are more possibility of this impact, negative impact. So hazardous impact on the environment. So that's why it is falling in the two, in which EIA is required. So all these things you can go through. And next time we will again review these regulations a little bit and discuss them. And furthermore, we will talk about the guidelines of EIA as well. So those guidelines are again to facilitate the development of EIA document. So that's all for today's lecture.